goes like this. On any Sunday, if you're not riding your motorbike, you're probably fixing your motorbike. And today's no exception. It's Sunday, but the weather's crap. That means it's a fixing day. So if we amble out to the shed and rummage around a bit, I'm sure we'll find something to work on. Okay, here we go. This grimy little two-stroke carb will do. We're gonna need it for the YZ250 project bike later on. So now let's have a look at how we're gonna clean and prep this little gem. Okay, let's dig in. First thing, let's get rid of these plastic lines and hoses. They're stiff and brittle and just about as flexible as your grandmother's fingers. Probably snap just like a Kit Kat bar. Next, grab a Phillips driver and get the top cover removed. And when you pull that off, you get the throttle valve, the spring, and the jet needle all in one go. And you may as well unhook the cable and pull out the needle while we're at it. Here you can see the cable holder and how the cable sits in the slot. It's actually pretty simple and very effective. Now when you get the needle out, take note of where the circlip is located. Okay, this thing is a throttle position sensor. It's held in with tamper-proof screws, and we're going to need a Torx head security bit to get it out. Yeah, we'll talk more on this guy later. Okay, back with the Phillips driver. Remove the 4 float bowl screws and pop the bowl off. This one's pretty clean, but don't be surprised to see hell if your carb is old and neglected. Now you can push out the float pin and gently remove the floats, complete with the float valve. Now using a slotted driver, you can remove the idle adjuster and spring. Then remove this, your power jet solenoid. This is the air mixture screw. Remember to take note how many turns out from being fully buried this screw is set at. That's important. Next, get a wrench and remove the main needle jet. Grab a bigger wrench and wind out the choke. Use a slotted driver to remove the pilot jet, and then a smaller slotted driver to remove the tiny little power jet. Right, now, a great way to clean all these bits and pieces is an ultrasonic cleaner. And the key here is the heat and the liquid you choose to use. And whatever witch's brew you decide to go with, you better test it first for corrosiveness and the maximum duration you can use it before it starts eating away all the metal and rubber parts you're trying to clean. That's pretty important. Okay, 20 minutes later, let's check out our carburetor soup. It smells great. Maybe a little metallic, but not too bad. Okay, now this gives you a good idea of how well this stuff cleans. A lot of metallic little bits you can see. All we have to do now is rinse everything off, clean it with soapy water, hit it with some air, maybe a quick splash of diesel, lube it all up, and get ready to piece this puzzle back together. It's a good idea to find yourself a rebuild kit that'll give you all the necessary gaskets and washers and a loose change you're going to need for this. The one I'm using is from Moose Racing, kit number 1003-0798. Okay, first one, pilot jet. Confirm the size, 5.0. Find the new one, jam it in, drive it home, done. Needle jet, 178S. Find the new one, wind it in, then lock it down. Done, move on. Next, power jet, size 50. Find the new one, carefully spin it in, and that's it. Carry on. Okay, air mixture screw. It needs a spring, a washer, and a rubber O-ring. Now carefully assemble it in that order. Then jam that baby home, and remember to set it back the same number of turns you noted it was set at when you took it apart. Yeah, remember that? Now in my case, it was 1 1/8. Next, we'll spring load the idle adjust knob, then find the hole and screw it in. Just that simple. We can properly set it once we get the engine running. Okay, now let's install the floats. So we got to find that new float valve and then gently hang it on the center bracket between the floats. Then it's a case of carefully dropping that assembly into place, taking that float pin and stuffing the float pin into the hanger posts. All we got to do now is check that everything moves freely, and we should be good to go. Let's buckle it up. Alright, I should have mentioned this earlier. It's a good idea to slather a little oil on all your bits and pieces pre-assembly. It's just good practice. Now jam that drain bolt into the float bowl, snug it down, and go find the bowl gasket. Now line it up, press it in. That's looking fine. Okay, just fit the bowl onto the carb body. Make sure it's all good, and find those new screws from the carb kit. Drop them in, torque them down, and that's it. Move on. Right, this one's easy. Grab the choke, slam it in, tighten it up, good to go. Okay, throttle position sensor. Angle it in, snap it in place, a little dab of thread lock on the tamper-proof bolts, and we're good. Just torque them up with that special tamper-proof bit. Right, now if we check the manual, the TPS wiring and resistance can be checked with a simple ohm meter. We're looking from 0 to 2K when it's closed, and somewhere between 4 and 6K ohms fully open. And it looks like we're right in the ballpark here. We can do similar checks on the power jet solenoid as well. 27.2 ohms falls within spec. And we can also confirm functionality by connecting a 12-volt battery and physically prove activation of the solenoid. Get some wires, hook them up, complete the circuit. This one looks good. The rest is easy. Drop it home, give it a few turns, cinch her up, line up the wiring harness, and bolt it down. Done. Now let's look at the jet needle setup. Find the tiny little circlip and snap it into place. Now in this case it's groove number 2, just like the original. Then drop it into the chrome throttle valve and bolt her down with the spring-loaded cable holder. Then just tighten it up and we're good. Alright, we're almost done. Find the proper new gasket and toss it into the mixing chamber top cap. Then grab the throttle cable and thread it into the top cap. Extend the inner cable wire and feed the throttle return spring over top, and don't forget the little plastic bushing in the end of the spring. Now it's just a case of sliding the cable end into the cable holder notch in the throttle valve. Alright, looking good. Then take this linked up assembly, pull back the throttle position sensor arm, line it up and slide it home. A couple of new screws and a Phillips driver. Tighten it up and test it out. Nice. Look at that. It works great. Alright, to finish it off, we'll connect some breather lines. All I had was this cheap clear hose, the kind of stuff that gets stiff and turns yellow with age. Kind of like toenails on a hobo. And there it is, crisp and clean, ready to put on the bike. But as you can see, we're still a little ways off before we can go for a ride. Yeah, we could probably use a motor, maybe some wheels, I don't know. Oh well, let's dig in and see what's next.